Hey, what's up everyone? Hopefully by now you're one of the 80 million Americans who received your stimulus payment through direct deposit. But if you're a person who have yet to receive it, just be a little bit more patient. The IRS is planning to send out more money in the upcoming week. But we can probably all agree that $1,200 is probably not going to be enough for most of us. With over 20 million people applying for unemployment, there has been more proposals for stimulus. One of them being a proposal that would provide Americans free rent or mortgages up to 1 year. That's right. Free rent. Free mortgages. 1 year. Hey, what's up guys? My name is Nam. I hope you guys are having a great week. First, I want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching my videos. Even though making YouTube videos is not my full-time job, I do feel really lucky because I actually have an audience, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting me. So if you guys are not aware, there's a new stimulus proposal that's been floating around that would give Americans not just a one-time check, but $2,000 guaranteed for 6 months. So this bill is called the Emergency Money for the People Act. If you guys want to read the bill for yourself, I'll post a link in the description below. First, let's talk about who's eligible for this proposed bill. For every American aged 16 and older making less than $130,000 annually will receive $2,000 a month. What a great time to be a high school student. Married couples who make less than $260,000 a year will receive at least $4,000 per month. And any qualifying families with children will receive an additional $500 per child. The funds is mapped out at a maximum of 3 kids, so the most that you can earn with children is $1,500 per month. So next is that the benefits can reduce by $50 per month for every $1,000 that you make above the maximum, which is $170,000 for singles and $340,000 for married couples. This legislation will provide monthly cash payments until employment for people ages 16 and older return back to pre-COVID-19 levels, which means that the employment to population ratio levels must be greater than 60%. And also all of these monthly payments wouldn't count towards income. So meaning that if you're already eligible for unemployment, you can collect unemployment and also receive the stimulus package at the same time. So for all dependents, college students, or adults with disabilities that were excluded from the current $1,200 stimulus check, they will make all of those people eligible for this stimulus package. So I had to think about something for a minute. So let's just say that you're a family of 4, you're a married couple who has 2 teenage children that are ages 16 and 18. So for this couple, they will receive $4,000, and for each one of their kids, they would also receive $2,000 each. So a total of a family of 4, they would essentially receive $8,000 a month. That is pretty insane when I'm thinking about it. I'm not really sure if this is ever gonna pass, but wow. That's a lot of money. So as a side note, you really don't even need a bank account to receive this money. Of course, you're gonna get payments normally like a direct deposit or a check, but you can get payments made through mobile applications, such as Venmo, PayPal, or the Cash App. Can you really imagine getting a stimulus payment from the government through Venmo? So that was a brief breakdown of the Emergency Money for the People Act. So here's a second proposal. So just recently, Representative Ilhan Omar introduced a proposal called the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. I'll post a link of the bill in the description below if you guys want to take a look for it for yourself. So under this bill, if it does get approved, it will call for a nationwide cancellation of rent and home mortgage payments throughout the whole duration of the pandemic or up to 1 year. So here are the key concepts of this bill. This will provide rent or mortgage payment forgiveness for your primary residence. Foreclosures cannot happen when this bill is active. All renters and homeowners would not accumulate any sort of debt due to this cancellation. This would also have no negative impact on your credit rating or rental history. This bill would also establish a relief fund for landlords and mortgage holders to cover their losses. And this would also create an optional fund to finance the purchase of private rental properties to increase availability of affordable housing. So under this bill, this will be retroactive up to March 13th and it will last up to 1 year unless it somehow becomes extended. So for any renters and homeowners who made payments in April of 2020, they will be reimbursed for those payments as well. But there are some caveats to this bill. So for this bill, this will only allow taxpayers to receive coverage for the primary residence only. So in other words, this would not cover any second homes, vacation homes, or any non-primary residences. So for people who have mortgages and they also rent a home, they would have to choose a home of where they currently live. The thing about this bill is like, yeah, everyone will get free rent and mortgages, but what about the landlords and the mortgage companies? Will they have to pay for the people for a year for free? So this is where the Department of Housing and Urban Development comes into play. This bill would create a relief fund for lenders and landlords to cover their rentals or mortgage payments that they would have received normally. So essentially the Department of Housing and Urban Development are the ones who are paying for everybody's rent and mortgages. It's almost a win-win situation. Tenants get to live for free, homeowners get more equity in their homes, landlords and lenders still get their money. I believe that the biggest challenge with this bill will be for landlords and lenders. So for landlords and lenders to receive these funds, they would have to follow federal guidelines for fair lending and rental practices for at least 5 years. There are quite a few of them, 10 to be exact, so I'm just going to name a few. So one of them is rent freeze. So this prevents landlords from increasing their rents when this bill is in place, which prevents the landlords from collecting more money from this fund. Another one is the landlord can't discriminate against source of income, credit history, immigration status, gender, or sexual identity. They also cannot retaliate in any way against the residents, and they cannot collect any back rent whenever this bill has ended. Landlords cannot also receive money from the funds when there are vacancies in their building. So as for lenders, there will be a separate lender relief fund, which is very similar to how the landlord relief fund is structured. So the mortgage lenders would have to report who has a mortgage and the details of their mortgage to receive the funds from the federal government. There is also an addition to this bill, which is the Affordable Housing Acquisition Fund. So I know that under this section, this may not apply to the majority of Americans out there, so I'll just briefly explain it so everybody knows what's going on. So essentially, the Department of Housing and Urban Development will create a fund for nonprofits, public housing associations, and general local government authorities to purchase rental properties for the use of low-income housing. So how this may affect landlords and real estate companies is that for a period of 5 years, they must notify the Department of Housing and Urban Development when they want to sell their multifamily property. And if nobody purchases while using the Affordable Housing Acquisition Fund within the next 60 days, then the owners can make a private sale. So basically, any organization or business that's eligible, they get first dibs on those properties. But the bill did mention that they would provide funds for ongoing operations and maintenance for individuals who are eligible. But there's also no clarification for how long this will go on. So here are the biggest problems with these proposals. And the biggest thing usually is the money. That's what it always comes down to. To be completely honest, to get the most bang for your stimulus package will be the Emergency Money for the People Act. Almost everyone and their mother will receive an extra $2,000. So in a recent Graham Stephan video, he ran some quick numbers and it would cost $488 billion to keep this going per month and also $2.6 trillion for 6 months. But of course, take these numbers with a grain of salt. These were just loose calculations. But now let's talk about the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. How much would this actually cost? So for the average American, depending on where you live, they can spend anywhere from 30 to 50% of their income on rent and mortgages. So here in the US, the average rent is around $1,500 and there are about 49 million rental units. Alright, so let's math this up. If you take the average rent, which is around $1,500 a month, multiplied by 49 million rental units, this will be around $73.5 billion per month. But just keep in mind that this is just a loose number and this is a quick calculation. This by no means is accurate. But now, let's talk about people who own homes and have mortgages. The average mortgage payment here in the US is about $1,100. I find it's kind of funny since I live in California, but anyways, 60% of homeowners, they still have a mortgage and there are roughly about 128 million homes. So of the 128 million homes, if 60% of those people still own a mortgage on it, that would be about 77 million homes. If the average mortgage payment is $1,100 and if you multiply that by 77 million homes, that would equal to about $85 billion per month. So when you add $85 billion to $73.5 billion, this comes out to be about $158.5 billion. Let's just say $159 billion just to make this easier. So essentially, if this bill does get passed and this pandemic does go on for another year, just in housing alone, this would cost about $1.9 trillion. So when you compare the two, the Emergency Money for the People Act and the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act, the one that deals with housing is going to be much cheaper. But when you relate this to the current stimulus package that was recently passed, which was called the CARES Act, it costs about $2 trillion, and roughly about $900 billion of that went to people and small businesses. Now let's talk about the ethics of both of these proposals. To be completely honest, to get $2,000 a month sounds freaking amazing, but I cannot imagine any 16-year-olds out there receiving $2,000 a month from doing nothing. No offense, 16-year-olds that are watching this video. When I was 16 years old and I wanted to make some money, I would try to buy shoes and resell them online. But to receive $2,000 a month for doing completely nothing, you know how many Supreme t-shirts I could have bought? But aside from that, every person would essentially receive this money. So if you already have a job and you make $100,000 a year, you're basically getting another $2,000 bonus for another 6 months. For someone who's still working where their lifestyle has not changed at all financially, is that ethically sound to give somebody who's making money more money? How about individuals who are receiving a $600 unemployment benefit? I'm not saying anything bad about these individuals who are unemployed because this program was meant for you guys and you guys totally deserve it. But let me give you an example. Here in California, people can receive about $1,800 per month from state unemployment benefits. And on top of that, you can get the pandemic unemployment compensation, which is another $2,400. So with this new Emergency Money for the People Act, that's an additional $2,000. So in total, basically, you would get $6,200 a month. That's almost the same paycheck that someone would earn if they're making around $75,000 a year. But I think this is going to be very beneficial for essential workers since the majority of them are not receiving any sort of hazard pay, and this will help them out tremendously. Now let's talk about the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. So for individuals who are currently living a very lavish lifestyle, I'm talking about multi-million-dollar mansions, they would also be applicable to this bill as well. Let's just say that you're pretty well off and you have a $15 million home in Beverly Hills. So even if you have a mortgage with a 20% down, your monthly payment will probably still be around $55,000. So if this bill does last up to another year, that individual can save up to $660,000. That's more than $500,000. And that's not including the equity that they would have gained. So unfortunately with this bill, this really didn't state if there's going to be any limits on the amount that they can apply to rent or mortgages with this bill. But I imagine just like any other bill, there has to be some caps to avoid problems with funding. Even though landlords and lenders can get their money reimbursed, I think that they will be the ones that are most negatively impacted by this bill. Because when you really think about it, it's the landlords and the lenders who have to apply for these relief funds. So depending on when these funds do become available and when they actually get the money, that becomes very unpredictable on a financial standpoint. So with the recent CARES Act, the funding for small business relief was gone in a matter of 2 weeks. So for the landlords and the lenders who have to front the money in case if the bill does pass, there will be the ones who actually have to depend on the government to get reimbursed for that cost. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm super grateful to receive the $1,200 stimulus payment because that's money I didn't have before. But in all honesty, most people, they can't make it off of just one $1,200 check. I'm pretty sure there will be another stimulus relief package if the shutdown continues to go on. Alright guys, so that's pretty much my 2 cents. Let me know in the comments below of what proposal do you prefer. Would you rather have $2,000 per month, or would you rather have a year of rent and mortgage free? Alright guys, thank you guys for watching. If you guys want to learn more about personal finance, come hang out with me some more over here.